It's about to go down.
Okay.
Stacy?
What you doing here?
Oh my God.
It's time for my favorite part of the show.
Oh, hold up.
Dating in the Dirty South.
It is time for my favorite part of the show, Dating in the Dirty South. And y'all already know that our in-house relationship expert, Terry Duran, is coming through with the ugly truth on everything sex, love, dating, relationships when it comes to millennial dating or just dating and marriage, period. And so today, he's talking about communication barriers in a situation, in a relationship. He gonna help us out, y'all. So make sure that you stay locked into the Day Party, Southside Dash Radio. And if you're already tuned in, turn your radios up right about now. Don't go nowhere. Listen to what Terry has to say. Hey, Terry, you ready?
What's going on, everybody? It's relationship expert Terry Duran, and on this week's episode of Dating in the Dirty South, The Ugly Truth, we are going to be talking about barriers to communication in a relationship. Now, we all know that communication is a very important part of a relationship. It's the only way that you can resolve issues or maintain a healthy relationship. You have to have a communication. And so I wanted to address some of the common things that I've observed that prevent that from actually happening. Now, one of the biggest issues that I see is a lot of people end up getting in relationships or committing to people that do not express their thoughts and feelings openly. Now, that's really problematic because if you're dating someone that does not express to you how they think and feel, then what you're ultimately going to be doing is a lot of overthinking and making a lot of assumptions. And both of those things are really detrimental to maintaining a healthy relationship. So if the dating phase, if you every time you try to ask them follow-up questions or ask them for more details, they either shut down or change the conversation or those type of things, those are the kind of things that should warn you on what your communication is going to be like if you decide to seriously date that person or get into a relationship with them. So a lot of it is people overlooking red flags or things that indicate a potential problem, and that is one of the really big ones. You have to, if somebody shows you that they are not an effective communicator, you need to be very wary about trying to get in a committed relationship with them, because you are very likely to end up very unhappy and miserable trying to figure out what's going wrong or why things are happening with that type of individual. The next thing is people having different meanings or interpretations of things. I often observe women on my page and with the women that I interact with. A lot of them interpret male behavior based off of their female value system. We already know that men and women view things very differently, and men and women have very different feelings about a lot of the things that are related to sex, love, and relationships. And so you have to be very careful and do your due diligence to make sure that when y'all are having conversations, y'all are discussing issues, y'all have the same meanings on certain words. So you may have to spend additional time defining what you mean by something or asking for some clarity to make sure that y'all are always on the same page. Now, the next thing, this is really, really, really bad, but we see it all the time. And that is when you are listening to just respond or find a way to be right. If you're doing that when you're in a situation where somebody's trying to explain how they feel to you or try to resolve an issue with you, the issue will never be resolved because you're just looking for a rebuttal. So it's almost impossible to ever really get understanding or get a different perspective on a situation if the entire time that you're supposed to be listening and paying attention and grasping that other perspective, you're sitting there thinking of what you're going to say next. That's really problematic, and that is a major reason that we have such horrible communication in relationships these days. Another thing is over-talking your partner or constantly interrupting them. Men experience this an awful lot. We see women will go on rants and go off and go above and beyond to express how they think or feel about a situation. But men rarely get the opportunity to do the same thing without being interrupted or accused of lying or accused of making excuses, etc. So that puts a man in a position where he stops trying to communicate with the woman because he starts to feel like it's a waste of time and it's just going to result in another argument. And the last thing is passive aggressive behavior. passive aggressive behavior kills relationships because it essentially prevents effective communication from taking place. And so what do I mean by passive aggressive behavior? That is when you are angry or upset about something, and instead of stating directly what the problem is so that it can be resolved, you express your anger or frustration in an indirect way. And so instead of telling somebody that you're mad at them because of something that they said or something that they did, you'll just pretend that you're all good, but your body language will show that you're clearly upset. You're slamming doors, you slamming down pots and pans, and, talking under your breath. You're doing these type of things that to go out of your way to let them know that you are upset and you have a problem with something. But when they're trying to speak to you to figure out what it is, you're making them jump through hoops or read your mind. You're never going to be able to have effective communication that way. That's why it's so problematic for relationships. So if we can try to get some of these tips knocked out and make sure that we can try to establish some effective communication and eliminate some of the barriers, I think we'll have a lot healthier relationships. What you think, Kiara?
Terry, first and foremost, I think that you are super duper amazing, and I appreciate you each and every Thursday for coming through the day party and just shedding light on the problems that we face, or even problems that we create for ourselves in relationships, like communication. In any relation, and I agree with you. I agree with every tip. I agree with everything you just said. I think in any relationship, though, effective communication is always going to be something that you have to work on. And I can only speak for myself, because when you were talking, Terry, I was like, oh, he calling me out on a few things that I am currently working on in my relationship, like being passive aggressive. If I am mad about something, I would just, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to deal with it. And then get mad at my partner for saying, okay, but then when I do want to revisit it, he doesn't want to revisit it because he wanted to revisit it when it happened so that we can deal with it and just kind of do away with it, right? And so that's something that I'm working on. And I know a lot of other women who are working on multiple things that you have talked about, Terry. Like, in any relationship, it is super important, guys, to talk about whatever you may be feeling. Be unafraid to talk about it, because I know a lot of times we don't want to talk about different feelings that we have, or problems that we have, for fear that they won't understand, or it will cause an argument, or they will walk out. But we cannot allow fear to stand in the way of us being able to effectively tell somebody how we feel, because how is the problem going to be fixed, right? You got to be able to sit down and have adult conversations with the person and agree to disagree in some cases, and it's okay to agree to disagree. Now, I said agree to disagree, but we're going to take it back to what Terry said. When you're sitting down and having these conversations, you also have to listen to the person, to listen and not to respond. So when you're listening to them, you got to really be taking in what they're saying, right? And not thinking, okay, they say this, but I'm gonna hurry up and jump in and say this. You cannot sit down with somebody and listen to them in the back of your mind thinking about how you're gonna respond to it. Sit down and listen, because you need to listen and hear what they say in order to not only take it in and maybe think about if what they're saying is truth, but to also respond properly, right? All of that is a part of effective communication. Over talking the person is another thing. I do not have to yell, and I feel like I don't like to yell, and I feel like if I have to yell during a situation, and that means you are not listening to me. You're so caught up in your feelings that you aren't listening to me, and I won't yell, but if I have to, I will. But then after I yell, I want to shut down the conversation, because now it's to another place, and we are not going to listen, but listen to respond, okay? And so Terry gave us some pretty doggone dope tips, y'all. If you want any relationship to work, and we're not just talking, well, of course, in this segment, we're talking about dating and relationships and marriage and all those sorts of things, but in any relationship, personal or business, you have to be able to effectively communicate with the other person, and do so in a manner where you're not being disrespectful, they're not being disrespectful, but that you guys are actually listening to understand where each other's coming from. That's the only way that you're going to be able to compromise and move forward in a positive direction, okay? And so shout out once again to Terry Duran. Y'all love me some Terry Duran, because he keeps me in check. I was like, ooh, barriers in communication. I definitely got it. Terry, I need to hear what you're saying. Shout out to Terry, because a lot of times us as females, we don't really want to hear what our partners have to say, right? And so sometimes it just feels a little bit better coming from another male who is just trying to, he's not trying to get in nobody's panties or nothing like that. He's really just trying to put us up on game, right? This is what a man is thinking. This is how a man is feeling, right? And so I appreciate Terry Duran. Shout out to him. Make sure to follow him. Again, he comes to us each and every Thursday at 1:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But if you follow Terry Duran at TerryDeron, he's giving out tips for us millennial women every single day, all right? And listen, if you jump in his comment section and you comment the wrong way, he don't have a problem calling you out and telling you why you're wrong. And I think that's super important. He don't just come at you no type of way. He's going to tell you why you're wrong and feeling that way, or why you need to check yourself if you need to check yourself. So shout out to Terry Duran, and that's why he has so many dope, loyal fans, okay? Make sure to follow him at Terry Duran, TerryDeron. But let's get back into this throwback Thursday music, and why not get into a little bit of Outkast? So fresh, so clean. It's your number one destination for Southern hip hop and R&B, Southside on Dash Radio. Thank you, Terry. I love and appreciate you, brother.